Hello, everyone. It's another wonderful episode of the Four Guys Roundtable. It's December 6th. 19 more days till Christmas? Yeah, I guess so. My son keeps reminding me every day, hey, Daddy, it's another day close to Christmas. I'm like, hey, you know what? He doesn't care right now. I'm joking. I do. Well,
bah humbug.
Jeremy,
don't go bah humbug. No bah humbug. It's down here in North Carolina. Oh, it's 43 degrees. It's pretty chill. Not too cold. Is you guys up north? You got like 16 inches of snow in Ohio, and whatever's going on in Pennsylvania. I don't know, but it's nice down here.
It's been nothing but rain here.
They didn't get any of the snow. I was the only one fortunate enough to get the snow.
Yep. He lives closer to Erie Lake than we do, so it turned into rain by the time it got here.
Lake effect snow is a lot of fun. Somebody who spent winters in South Bend, Indiana will tell you, and I have.
I mean, just being in South Bend, Indiana is bad enough, so.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things because
it's like someone's drinking some beer or some shit.
What'd you say?
He said you got the burps going on.
Man, you know, someone been drinking some beer? Someone got some beer drinking going on this evening, or what? Drinking too much of that bubbly?
I mean, I'm definitely not drinking, so.
Nah, he's just gassing up our podcast here with disgustingness. Thank you, sir.
This is going to turn into a bodily function podcast, damn it.
Well, the good thing is that, thank goodness, because usually I have gas coming out the other end. So I'm just glad that doesn't get picked up by the microphones at all. So.
And you definitely can't smell it either, so that's a good thing, too.
No smell-o-vision yet on YouTube or any other thing, so we're good there.
Yeah, but on YouTube. Yeah, please let's not have any Rudy Giuliani moments today.
What, did he fart like during an interview or something like that?
During this hearing that happened in Michigan, there was a very apparently audible sound as he was speaking that sounded like a fart, and it's like, yeah, it was him. Yeah. they lampooned that on Saturday Night Live last night too.
Nice. I have to go watch that then.
Being SNL, they of course exaggerated by having him do it like multiple times, but they also had, like, of course, the people's reactions to it, and of course he was blaming it on other people. He was like, "Oh, that was you." So.
There was
fart jokes.
There was a lady at work about like on Black Friday. I think it was either Black Friday or the day after. You know me, guys. I'm definitely not Mr. Christmas spirit. And she said something to me, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really into the holidays. I'm not really into Christmas. So when she was like leaving, she's like, have a nice day. I hope somebody shares their Christmas cheer with you. I was like, thanks, you bitch.
So when somebody tells me that they don't like this, that, or the other thing, especially when it's like a stranger in like a public setting like that, it's always my intention then to
be an asshole. Basically, that's what she was. She was an asshole.
Try to play like one-upsmanship or something. I don't get why people feel the need to. I don't really know what the right term for it is. Like
push their views on you,
spread their joy. Well, it's not so much pushing a view. It's just like, you should enjoy. You should like Christmas.
Here, guys, look. This is what I have to wear at work.
Sweet. With your height, you fit the perfect elfin.
Unfortunately, because of my connection, the only person face I can see is Jared. The other two are just off on my screen. So I have no idea.
Well, Matt had an elf hat on.
I had an elf hat on.
That fits you perfectly.
Thankfully, only my main store makes me wear it. All the other stores are like, you can wear it if you want, but we're not going to force you to wear it. I'm like, thank you.
It's been forever since I've been in retail now, luckily. But Yeah, if somebody were to come to me now and say you have to wear this, I'd be like, I'm Christmassy as the next person. I'm not wearing that. Just not wearing that. I'm 39 years old. Make the people in their teens and 20s wear that shit.
And that's the thing. Like for me, hats, like when I'm working and I'm moving around like AJ does, working in retail like that, I get very hot. You put me in a hat, I'm gonna just sweat like a freaking pig. So like that's the worst thing you can do. So it's not even about being in the Christmas spirit for me. It's about having to be super hot and have no way for that heat to escape my head. Because even if I mow the grass, like if I go out and mow the grass like right now, it's freaking winter, it's December, and it's like 30 some degrees out. If I throw a hoodie on and go mow the grass, I'm coming and I'm sweaty. Like that's just I get too hot too quick sometimes, depending on what I'm doing. If anything that involves me actually moving around, and for those people that are out there, well, it's probably because he's out of shape. No, it's not because I'm out of shape. I'm just hot. Like whenever I do anything that's physical, I get super hot.
Well, I know what you mean by that because I mean I got my nice little collection of baseball caps off to my right here, and I like never wear them anymore. Like no matter what time of year it is, like even when it gets cold now, I just like never seem to wear them. I just I don't know if I've grown out of them or something, but I just like never feel like putting one on. But you're still cutting your grass?
I could right now. I could if I wanted to.
Joe, it's very clear now.
Yeah.
Joe, your picture's very clear now.
Yeah, you all see my beautiful face now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know about the beautiful face part of it, but we can see you.
I've always found it to be
great beard.
If you were to pick one of the four of us as the photogenic one, it's definitely him. Come on.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry, Jeremy. Joe.
I actually asked Zach one time about our little friend group, and he said Joe is the hot one.
Oh God.
And Zach is now evidently the non-heterosexual one.
No, he was just saying that's what Joe's part in this is. So yeah.
We've seen that plenty of times too when we've been out in public, and it seems like women just seem to kind of gravitate to Joe without him even having to do anything.
What do you mean, Pat? They usually flock to you. What are you talking about?
Really?
It's the essence of Darthness in him.
Oh man.
Where the hell is it where we were once, where everybody started saying like those couple girls were saying to Joe's like he looks like that one wrestler, Triple A.
We were at the movie theaters.
Was
that
that
time
movies?
that happened.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, so my hair was long and beautiful.
Yeah, and we were laughing our asses off that they thought he looked like Triple H because wasn't at the time where we were always constantly Batista?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Batista.
I don't have a big nose.
Yeah, no, your schnoz is definitely not something you can dive off of. Triple H's diving board nose could be a nice platform. But anyway,
saying.
Joe, did you watch any of it tonight? It was good.
I watched all of it.
It was good. I thought it was good. I think the women's War Games match might have been the best match, actually.
Probably, yeah. All the matches were pretty hard-hitting. Slobber.
It was good. It was a good. Pat McAfee definitely can do what he's got to do when he has to do it.
Yeah, he can.
Slobber knocker.
I'll say slobber knocker. Hard in slobber knocker, bro.
Yeah. How about Pat Patterson passing away?
I mean, that one. He was one of the legitimate good guys in wrestling. Like he was everybody liked Pat Patterson. Like nobody didn't like Pat Patterson. So
I haven't ever heard one person say one bad thing against him except, well, I mean, I'll mention it in a second. But it's I guess it's you should never be surprised when somebody who's 79 years old passes away. But it's when you don't hear about it beforehand, when you never even hear anything about, oh, Pat's not doing so well. It's like with Howard Finkel, like I heard for like a couple of years before he passed that he wasn't in good shape and every other thing. And like if you were to hear that Ric Flair were to pass away, it's like he's had a lot of health problems lately. And if you were to hear that Jerry Lawler passed away, well, he had a freaking heart attack on air.
And the show must go on.
It is a little hard to stop a live show. So
anything tragic that happens in WWE, the show must go on. Live show or pay-per-view, the show.
We know that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens should Vince pass away during a live show. But
we'll break loose and stop the show.
I don't know. Doggos.
Huh?
But anyway, it's like you don't hear anybody say anything bad about Pat Patterson. It's like the only person who might the Ring Boys from that scandal back in the early '90s. But from what I've also heard about that, it's actually debatable as to how much Pat Patterson was ever actually involved in that. And the people who were really like kind of closest to the situation seem to think that he got roped up in it just because he was gay. So that's unfortunate. But it's like, think of what a trailblazer this guy was. I mean, again, he was the first Intercontinental Champion. He came up with a Royal Rumble match. He was like the first like openly gay real superstar in the world of wrestling, period. It doesn't matter what it was. A lot of his good stuff, like they even said, like when he was tagging with Ray Stevens, it was kind of like lost to the ages. Like there's no video of that. So that's a little disappointing that you can't really go back and see that stuff. But if you ever see that like, I don't know what they called it, like a boot camp match or something. That match he had in the Garden with Sergeant Slaughter in the early '80s.
Yeah, that was a good match.
Yeah, it turned into like a pretty big bloodbath because Slaughter just seemed to blade himself way too severely. But yeah, that was basically hardcore wrestling before hardcore wrestling. So
and all the stuff that all the people he helped backstage, like The Rock, like we don't get The Rock without Pat Patterson. I just don't think it happens.
Yeah,
so,
I mean. He was regarded as being like like the best finish guy in the business and everything. I mean, he was the one guy who they very famously could not smarten up that they were about to screw Brett because they said he probably would have gone to Brett and told him because he was, probably the fact that they were both Canadian had something to do with that, of course. But so it was very sad to see that happen, but. This morning I did go back and actually watch the video of the 10-bell salute that they did at the beginning of SmackDown. And I got to say, Vince, I mean, he didn't look or sound great at Survivor Series during the Undertaker. He looked unsteady, like he was having a hard time like standing like straight and everything. And I think that was probably the closest I've ever seen to Vince McMahon crying. And that's why I was like, I found it kind of interesting that they didn't really have any up close shots. Now that could have been a COVID precaution anyway, but they weren't getting too close to him. And I almost wonder if he ordered that because, I'm not trying to speak ill of the guy or anything, but Vince is 75. He's got to be starting to stare down the barrels of his own mortality at this point, no matter how many times he said, I'm not going to die.
Well, and Pat Patterson was a close dear friend of his, like forever,
And that's why too. Yeah. I mean, like, so, they were working together for pretty much, I think you got to say close to 40 years. So
when they did like the tribute to him on the TV programs, the picture of him and Dusty was the one that made me like tear up when they showed him sitting with Dusty. So
cheek? Oh my God.
It happens from time to time.
There were a couple that they showed, which I kind of got. I got a little misty-eyed about. The one that didn't really make me misty-eyed, but it still just gave you an appreciation for both men. It was when he was an announcer and he was interviewing Andre, and just seeing him standing next to Andre, you still just get an appreciation for just how huge of a man Andre was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's the unfortunate thing. A lot of guys of that age are starting to get up there. Guys we started watching. I mean, we're going to lose more of them, unfortunately, as the years go on. And hopefully they'll keep producing nice tributes. But this has been a this is kind of morbid. I keep like a list of famous people who pass away, and I kind of just look back at it on the end of the year or whatever. This has been kind of a bad year for wrestlers. Pampero Firpo passed away. He was like an old territory guy who a lot of people said was like the inspiration for Randy Savage doing the "oh yeah." Rocky Johnson died. You know, the Rock's father. Kamala died. There's been a few others. I mean, it just seems like Joe Pedicino died, who was a guy who was he worked for WCW and he worked for some other territories as like an announcer and an interviewer and everything. And he was one of the guys that almost like did like the dirt sheet before it was kind of called the dirt sheet in a way. Shad from Crime Time died, and he died trying to, saving his son from drowning.
Yeah.
So, so that was pretty sad. Mr. Wrestling 2 died. Killer Tim Brooks, who was another old territory guy, died. Yeah, it's just unfortunately, Howard Finkel, I think, was this year too. So yeah, it's not been a real great year, unfortunately, for wrestling personalities in that respect. So it's
Listen, Sean Connery died. Not said.
Yeah. Bond. James Bond.
And of course, two of the more recent, wrestling ones. Bullet Bob Armstrong died, and Red Warrior Animal died. So.
Yeah.
So on a wrestling note, a more happy wrestling note than Mr. Morbid over there.
He's an AEW.
No, not that. I don't give a shit about that. That means absolutely fucking nothing.
AEW still is an insignificant speck on the wall.
You mentioned Sergeant Slaughter in the boot camp match. When you said that sparked a little thing that always reminds me, like, I was a big fan of G.I. Joe. I loved G.I. Joe when I was growing up and loved watching that. And I always loved Sergeant Slaughter in the G.I. Joe commercials, like calling everybody a maggot and all this fun stuff. And that's actually what made me enjoy Sergeant Slaughter as a wrestler, was Sergeant Slaughter on G.I. Joe. I still have a Sergeant Slaughter 3 and 3/4 inch action figure, like. Yep. So with the hat and everything, it's really cool. I don't know. I just had to throw that in because it's just childhood memories.
There's like two sides of the Sting thing. Like, I get it that WWE ruined his end. So, and he wants to have a better finish than he got in WWE. I get that. But the 60-year-old guy showing up and taking a spot from somebody is where my problem is. Like, they don't need him to wrestle, and he's going to wrestle probably, and I don't think it needs to happen. So,
but you mentioned that, but what can he even do? He can't take bumps. He's got fucking spinal stenosis. I mean, one wrong landing and you're paralyzed, or worse. So. I don't even think it's so much that he's taking his spot. It's just, what did they do with him? I mean, does he become the commissioner or like the matchmaker? I mean,
no,
that's such a waste.
Matchmaker, make me a match.
I was thinking about Fiddler on the Roof earlier today. But seriously, I don't really see what value they get out of him.
He's just going to be the opposing force. Force of Sting.
There's one thing that I can see that he would do for AEW: sell merchandise. But beyond that, I don't really see what he's going to do.
Which he's already done. So
maybe, just maybe, he can have lightning shoot out his ass.
Well, with some of the stuff that they've done on AEW recently, I'm sure that would fit right in.
I did see. Wow, I did see a funny meme like the night after that. I saw a meme and it was like Vince on the phone with the Undertaker and it said, "Hey Mark, can you show up on Wednesday on NXT next week?"
Well, I guess Sting asked for a cinematic match with Undertaker and Vince turned it down.
Yeah, I gotta say that feels like a pretty stupid decision. I mean,
yep.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, he was willing to lose.
Undertaker's cinematic would have worked.
Right, and it's like, hey, he willingly lost to Triple H at WrestleMania, so I'm sure he'll lose Undertaker.
That would watch that.
Yeah. All right. So with all that wrestling stuff said, let's move on to something more fun. Because I'll be honest, I was ready to move on to something else. 'Cause
Proper
I didn't want to talk about Sting. I don't want to talk about him.
I mean, that's fine. I don't really either. So,
Well, technically, we never
Wow,
competed in.
humbug, you two jabronis.
What's that?
you're a Sting, Mark, Joe. We're not. So, like, that's.
Well, how about you two jabronis?
I
I like
Sting.
Sting. I just don't see what good he's going to be to AEW. That's
Like when it happened the other night, I'm like, wow, whoop-de-doo.
All right, so I think it's time to start this damn thing that we call a podcast. So, good old Theo, what in the hell are we talking about today?
We are talking comedy movies.
Ooh, my favorite kind of movie, a comedy.
That make you fart, cry, and shit all at once.
Like in Grown Ups.
Yes,
Correct.
quite possibly. And I also like a good rom-com, romantic comedy too, because, hey, comedy's comedy. I don't care what kind of comedy.
That's true.
So, when it comes to comedy movies, I guess we should start off I don't even know, should we say what makes a good comedy movie or just,
Excuse me.
know. So, I know we have some talking points here, so I'll go right to the talking points and say, what type of humor do you like better? Do you like slapstick? Do you like dirty or naughty or raunchy? Or, what makes a good comedy movie? Like, what kind of comedy do you like to hear? Like, Darth Pat, what kind of comedy do you prefer? Intellectual comedy? Or you are an intellectual comedic guy?
Do you need a plot?
I think it depends. I've always been more of a fan of, I guess you would say, like witty comedy, like wordplay, that kind of stuff. But I mean, physical comedy can be just as entertaining as well.
Did you mean foreplay or wordplay, Pat?
I did not mean foreplay.
That's all right. AJ doesn't know what foreplay is either, so it's
right. Okay. Sure.
Oh my God. You just quoted Three Amigos, didn't you?
If I did, I didn't mean to.
Oh. Wait, have you not seen Three Amigos? Three Amigos.
It's been a very, very long time.
He quoted it, so now he should do the little thing that they do.
There was a big change of dialogue between two of the female characters in Three Amigos, where the one's telling the other, it's like, you will be a guapo's, woman tonight, and it's like, she's like, do you know what foreplay is? No. Good. Neither does El Guapo. So, no, I mean, there's comedy is hard to define because, again, there's different forms, there's different types, and sometimes I'm just like in the mood for like different things. Like, I may not be in the mood for a comedy where you really have to pay attention to every line of dialogue to catch the jokes because they're like more subtle or they're just not as obvious. I might be in the mood for something that's a little bit more broad and obvious and things like that. It just kind of depends. So
I got to ask, who of us does anybody like British humor?
Oh, I definitely
because it is definitely different.
Not me.
It definitely is, but I mean,
my
my dad introduced me to Monty Python pretty early on in my life, so I've always been a huge Monty Python fan. That's pretty much the pinnacle of British humor, but I've also watched stuff like Fawlty Towers and Mr. Bean and
Mr. Bean, I love Mr. Bean.
Bean is cool.
few other British shows here and there that have been really good. So it is definitely different, but I mean, British comedy is definitely a bit more. I mean, generally speaking, because there's like Benny Hill, which is not what I'm about to say. British humor is generally a little bit more intellectual in the sense that like they'll make references to historical figures and things of that sort. So if you don't really know what that is, you might have to like look it up. I mean, there's still like jokes in Monty Python that I don't get because they're referencing somebody British that I don't know who it is or what they were and that kind of thing, and I'll have to go look up and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Oh yeah. So, how about you, AJ?
I like the filthy, raunchy humor. That's my preference. So
you definitely enjoyed Grown Ups. I'm gonna say you enjoyed that movie quite a bit.
American Pie and those movies I really liked. That's like that. That's the kind of filth and potty humor and sex humor and all that stuff. So,
what does third base feel like? A warm apple pie.
my favorite like female, I like Melissa McCarthy and I like Tiffany Haddish because they're foul mouthed and they're it's potty humor and foul mouth stuff with them too.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Yeah, when it comes to humor, I don't want to have to think too hard about it. Like, if I've got to think about what the joke's supposed to be, that's too much. That's way too highbrow for me. Like, some people enjoy that kind of humor. I personally don't. Like, if I'm watching a comedy movie, my whole purpose of watching a comedy movie is to really just not have to think and just enjoy an hour and a half to 2 hours of a movie. And that's really it. Or even in, like, a TV show that I watch. Like, Benny Hill and stuff like that, like going old school, like British stuff. Benny Hill, I like to watch him. Mr. Bean, I did enjoy Monty Python. The Monty Python movies were really good. But yeah, it's that disconnection and not having to think. I think enough throughout the day. I don't need to think in my humor too. So I have other movies that I watch when I want to think. How about you, Theo?
I don't have a preference as far as like a favorite one. I like them all. Sometimes it's kind of like what mood I'm in is what kind of humor I'm looking for, or what I really need to watch to make me laugh at that moment or that day. Of course, I like the raunchy stuff. Who doesn't like the raunchy stuff?
Pat.
Well, besides maybe Patrick, I can go from anywhere watching like coming trains, planes, and automobiles to, I don't know, Caddyshack, or whatever the case may be, or Airplane, for God's sakes. That shit made me laugh. I mean, it's some older movies, or Wayne's World. There we go. Some crazy ass Wayne's World shit. Those guys, pothead people, whatever, they make me laugh too. I'm all by any of that type of comedy. I'm good with all of it. If you can get me to laugh, you're good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking about Wayne's World. It makes me think of all the Austin Powers movies that Mike Myers did. Like, those movies were they were to the point at times, like, they were so stupid they were funny. Like, you couldn't help but laugh because it was so dumb. With like the Dutch guy, he's like, "Would you like a smoke and a pancake?" You know, and he starts going through all the different things like smoking a pancake, or it's just like
get,
this is so
get
stupid,
in my belly.
Yeah, and then what the heck was that?
Fat bastard.
Fat bastard. You know, you're low on the food chain. Get in my belly. You know, just stupid shit like that makes you laugh, and it's like, this is so dumb that it's really funny. Like, so.
I know this wasn't a movie; it was a TV show, but. Beavis and Butthead. I mean, like, the word bungholio, when I heard them say bungholio for the first time, I just used that shit in my everyday life. Me and my friends would joke around. Oh, you bungholio. You fucking love that word. It was fucking hilarious. We used to use it all the time. Just the stupid shit.
Like, I remember when the Chappelle Show came out. That was hilarious. Like, I watched that show every week and thought that show was great.
All right. So did all of us watch? Did all of us watch the Chappelle Show at some point in time?
Absolutely. Every season. So,
favorite. Okay, since we're talking about the Chappelle Show, we've all seen favorite skit of all time from Chappelle Show. AJ.
I gotta think about it. Maybe the racial draft, or Rick James.
Rick James is one of my favorite ones that he's done.
I take the Wu-Tang Clan.
Rick James is definitely one of my favorites.
I'm trying to remember that because there was a lot of different characters, but don't the blacks draft Tiger Woods? He's like, I'm finally black. I'm finally. I'm like, oh my god.
He does some crazy ass shit.
In a lot of ways, I feel like Chappelle Show was really like the last, like, truly, like, groundbreaking thing.
Funny. That was
comedy.
funny.
And that was like, that's over 15 years ago now, which maybe is kind of it's more of a sad reflection. I think the way comedy's been a little stagnant in terms of like, reaching new grounds and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rick James sketch, really the Rick James show, that was just a whole episode. I remember the first time I saw that, and was pretty sure it was at AJ's house. I honestly don't remember laughing that hard and for that long a period of time where I was like really like gasping for air a couple times.
When he does Little John, those were funny. Yeah.
Like I remember gasping for air, the Rick James part where he was doing the whole thing like, see, I never just, ground my feet up on somebody's couch. I get something to do. I got a little more sense than that. Yeah, I grounded my feet up on Eddie's couch, and then they did the rewind thing, and like, I kind of that part just got me. But I mean, the thing too about Chappelle Show, the very first episode, they did the Clayton Bigsby sketch.
That's my favorite sketch of all time. Is Clayton Bigsby, black white supremacist.
They do this sketch, which hey, it's like, it was controversial, of course, because the way that they were using the N-word, which, yes, of course, that's going to be. But at the same time, they were really kind of holding up a mirror to a lot of people as if to say, and a lot of ways and in a lot of ways, that's really what the best kind of comedy is. The best kind of comedy is the kind that really does make you uncomfortable on certain levels and makes you have to, like, kind of confront your own beliefs or prejudices and things of that sort. And goddamn if that sketch didn't do it. So
well, yeah, when he's like, I gotta show him my face, he's like, no, Clayton, don't do it, don't do it. He's like, I gotta do it. And he takes off his hood, and like you just see the white people's heads starting to explode. They're like, oh my god. Yeah,
the one guy's head explodes and everything. So like they definitely got broad with it at that point and everything. But that was still a pretty good moment of just
Right. Yeah. And you said the Rick James skits and stuff like that. One of my favorite lines. What did the five fingers say to the face? Slap. Slash Charlie Murphy in the face.
And like the Lil Jon stuff was great. The racial draft was great. The Charlie Murphy True Hollywood Story about Prince too was also great because people have confirmed that did happen. maybe not like exactly in the way that it was described, but they did say that something like that. Somebody I think who was in like Prince's entourage at the time did confirm that actually happened. More or less the way they depicted it. So.
And then there was the reparations skit where all everybody, all the black people got reparations. That shit was hilarious because he essentially made fun of everybody that he made fun of his own people, like to the point where he's like, I know what every one of these motherfuckers would do if they got reparations, and he showed it exactly like from his point of view, being a black man in America, how he feels his cohorts would use that money, and it just makes you laugh because it's like just so realistic. And that's what I loved about the Chappelle Show. Like, he took his point of view as a black man in America and made light of everything and made fun of everything. Like, he pulled no punches. Like, his show could not exist in today's day and age with all the censorship and the you can't hurt anybody's feelings stuff. Like, his show could not exist.
His stand-up comedy is the same way. Like, I've seen all his stand-up stuff, and he makes fun of all races. Chris Rock is another guy who will make fun of whoever. Like, he didn't care when he was doing his stand-up. So they would make me laugh even more because they weren't afraid to go down the white man road or that road or whatever. They would make fun of whoever they needed to make fun of. So
yeah. I mean, like when Chappelle was on SNL a few weeks ago, his monologue was a bit controversial too with some of the things that he said. I thought it was pretty funny throughout, and I knew what he was like going for, but both of my sisters were watching it and they thought it was uneven at best. They were there were some parts that they thought were not funny as to parts that they thought were funny. So, and I'm just saying, like, that's Chappelle. What do you expect? I mean,
That's what he
he's
does.
he's gonna push those boundaries, you know. And if
Right.
you can't, if you can't handle it, then it's
Sorry,
really kind of saying more about you. So
we digressed from comedy movies a little bit.
Oh, that's all right. Comedy takes all forms, Jerry.
Okay.
And some of the best comedy that we've seen is probably TV shows for a lot of us. But even like one of the funniest skits too that he used to do was when Keeping It Real Goes Wrong. Like, those were freaking awesome.
They were.
Like those were just funny. Like I happened to catch I was going through YouTube and have to fall on one of those. I was like, boop, watch. And it just ran like 4 of them in a row. I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like this is just absolutely crazy.
Because like how when we were younger, I remember when In Living Color came out, and that show was hilarious. I used to watch that show every week. I could not wait to see Fire Marshal Bill and Men on Film and all that stuff every week. I couldn't wait to watch In Living Color every week.
Oh man, and In Living Color, yeah, and there you go. In Living Color, another show that was very groundbreaking in the way that it handled racial issues. Like, you know, and not to get on a racial thing, but we can learn a lot about how to handle each other as people from watching comedy. Like, if we could just laugh at some of the things that we do as individuals, regardless of color, we could get along. We do, because we all have stupid shit about us, regardless of the color. We all do stupid fucking shit. So, like, why can't we just laugh at some of that stuff and just make light of it and say, okay, it is what it is, and let's fucking move on, you know? Because that's what comedy does. They don't. I mean, in today's day and age on TV, you can't do that stuff. But that's why they have the stand-up, and that's why I love watching stand-up comedy, because they speak their mind, and they're going to. And if you don't want to hear it, then don't come to their comedy show and don't watch their fucking specials. Yeah. Because you're not going to be happy. So, you know. But like, I loved In Living Color. Fire Marshal Bill was awesome. Men on Film, like you mentioned.
When he was the bum, this old box. When he was the bum and he was using snot as glue or whatever. Come on. And he had
that was what Damon. Jar. That was Damon Wayans.
Yeah, and he had a pickle jar that he peed in.
That was, and I think there was like they had this like thing that kind of looked like a pickle, but it was supposed to be a turd.
He had like, I think he did 3 or 4 of those, but I remember this old box because that was the first one. And the Men On, every time they did the Men On, I remember they did In Living Color during the Super Bowl at halftime one time. And they had Men On Football, and they were like bent over with each other, touching. Oh my God!
Doesn't he say something about Bob Greasy? Wasn't he a tight end? He's like, well, he used to be.
Just hated it.
And you had the head, which were really funny. What was it? Was that? I think that was the Jamaican family, wasn't it? The Headleys were the Jamaican family. Like, how many jobs you got, man? Like, if you didn't have 15 jobs, you weren't working hard enough.
Jim Carrey was Vera DeMilo, also.
The horse with the horse steroids.
I always found it kind of interesting about In Living Color. You know, there was a show that was primarily composed of African American or Latino American performers, and the breakout star from the show is the one white guy, of course.
Wow. But, I mean, J-Lo was a fly girl. Come on now.
She was a breakout star, but she just wasn't a star on that show.
You guys know as well that Fire Marshal Bill appears in Liar Liar.
Yes.
Jim Carrey. Now, to explain that for the people who don't know, at the end of Liar Liar, when Jim Carrey's, stopped the plane from taking off and he's being loaded onto a stretcher, there's a scene that's shot from, behind the stretcher where you can't see Jim Carrey laying on the stretcher, so you can't see his face, meaning that it's a double. But in the background of that scene is Fire Marshal Bill talking to some people or talking on a walkie-talkie because there's all the emergency personnel. It's one of those blink and you miss it kind of moments, but
I've never seen it.
If you know where to see it towards the end of the movie, it's definitely there. I mean, and again, with the help of things like YouTube, I'm sure if you were to search on a YouTube, you'd probably find the scene and somebody will has it pointed out in some way, shape, or form. But it's definitely Fire Marshal Bill right there being all like.
Do you guys like? What would be like your favorite Jim Carrey movie? Like if you could pick like a funny movie from him.
It definitely would not be The Mask. That was
Yeah, I
probably
don't
my
like The
least
Mask. A
favorite
lot of people
movie of
like
his.
The Mask, and I didn't like The Mask either, Jeremy. That was one of my least favorites either. Jim Carrey is the only person to beat himself up in 2 separate movies.
But yeah, The Mask, I didn't like The Mask because I felt it was like too cartoonish. I'm like, this doesn't like, it's just too odd for me. Like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah,
by far.
I think of me, myself, and Irene. They're like, "What are you doing? Kicking my own ass?"
I've always kind of been partial to the Ace Ventura movies, and I know a lot of people have a lot of issues with the second one. Like, and a lot of people, I don't know if you remember at the time, it's like he was like he could do no wrong there for a period of about 2 years. Like he went from like Ace Ventura to The Mask to Dumb and Dumber to Batman Forever to Ace Ventura 2, and they were all huge hits. And he got like the first like $20 million per movie paycheck for The Cable Guy, and The Cable Guy kind of flopped because it was a dark comedy, and dark comedy does not sell as well, especially when you don't, like advertise it as a dark comedy, which they definitely didn't. I do remember that, even though it's like almost 25 years old now and everything. But a lot of people seem to blame that the reason why The Cable Guy didn't do as well at the box office was because people didn't actually like Ace Ventura 2 that much. And it's like, I don't really know if that's the case. I think it's more just the fact that The Cable Guy was a dark comedy. But there's so many parts in Ace Ventura 2 where me and my younger sister will just like randomly start quoting that to ourselves. Like when we're in mixed company, we'll just like start doing lines from that movie while other people look at us like we're insane, which is kind of funny.
I think Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber is my favorite Jim Carrey movie. Like I'll go with Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, there's just a lot of
Dumb and
gags in
Dumber.
Ace Ventura 2, which I still like doing. Like I always like the scene where he's like he's literally driving through the jungle, like he turns off the road into the jungle or whatever.
In the big truck, in the big monster truck.
No, that's later. That's at the end. That's the climax. This is like when he's first going to like the consulate in the beginning, and he starts singing the freaking Chitty Chitty Bang Bang song. Yeah, I love that part too. When they're on the smooth paved road, and like you see him go like driving like.
He's like bouncing around.
Yeah, and then it slowly pulls back. The guy who's with him is like standing there, all just like looking at him like.
Good stuff.
Yeah, no, and that when he's running around trying to find a vehicle to chase down the bad guy in that film, it's really funny because the one vehicle that has like keys in it is the monster truck. And he does a little homage to Fire Marshal Bill in that portion too, when he's behind the wheel and he like does that weird cackle.
Yeah.
So he does like his homage to that. But I think what really threw people off in Ace Ventura 2 was the fact that he does the jungle call from his butt, which I thought was freaking hilarious. Like I just like that shit's funny.
It's cool, Jeremy. There's somebody else besides me that didn't like The Mask as much, because a lot of people say The Mask, and I'm just like, yeah, not really me.
The Mask movies are okay. They weren't great. They were okay for me.
So probably my favorite Jim Carrey movie, I would have to really say was Liar Liar. That was probably my favorite. It has a lot of personal memories too. That was the one movie I'd sit down and watch with my oldest daughter, like when I didn't have TV, when I was pretty much dirt poor on my own and single. That was the movie we'd sit down and watch because it was funny enough for her to understand. It wasn't too high level for her to understand, and it wasn't dirty potty mouth humor either, so she could watch it in that sense too. So.
Except that part where he's talking about stuffing her like a Thanksgiving turkey.
I mean, I want to suck him.
And that part too. What about Adam Sandler? Like, what would your favorite Adam Sandler be? Just because I'm trying to pick some guys who've made a lot of comedy movies, so.
For Sandler, it's always still going to be Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, because
it's Happy Gilmore for me. So
that's when I still liked his comedies. Now I'm not saying that I dislike what he does now. I really haven't seen a lot of his more recent stuff, and the more recent stuff that he's done that I've actually seen are the dramatic movies he's done, like Uncut Gems and the Meyerowitz stories. because I just kind of grew tired of his shtick at a certain point. I think it might have been around Little Nicky, but I think it was also around maybe like 50 First Dates and like stuff that he's done since then. When Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore came out, I didn't care as much that he was a little more lowbrow because I was still only a teenager. But that stuff still makes me laugh now. I mean, the Bob Barker fight scene in Happy Gilmore will never not make me laugh. Hey, why don't I go eat some hay? I can lay by the bay and make things out of clay. I just may. What do you say? That part will always crack me up in Happy Gilmore. So it's like I don't care that it's like I don't like his stuff as much as I once did. It's
the only movie out of his like movies he's done in the last 10 years, I really liked Just Go With It. Like that one was really funny to me. But like Nick Swardson is really important in that movie too, and I think he's really funny. So it's nice to see him. He plays his
like best friend that's like has to play like he plays
when he's trying to do when he's he's like, I'm Dolph Lundgren. And when he's trying to do the Heimlich maneuver on the sheep.
I've never actually watched that because it's a remake of another movie, so I just really wasn't that interested.
That one is funny, but I didn't really like Click, and I didn't like a lot of his newer stuff. It was okay. It wasn't great, but like Just Go With It was the one out of his newer movies that I really liked. So
I like The Waterboy. The Waterboy is probably one of my favorites too.
Well, see, the Waterboy I think is one that I think I also kind of turned against in a way because there are parts of that movie that get really annoying the more that you see them. The primary one is his voice. His voice is just really gets.
I think his voice is hilarious.
It gets really grating for me after watching it too much. And Kathy Bates actually, who I think is a very good actress, has been a great character actress throughout her career. She gets annoying after a while in that
That's
movie.
probably not her best role she's ever played in that movie.
I mean, in a lot of ways, I think like the funniest stuff is like the stuff involving like the real people, like the like Brent Musburger and Dan Fouts going back and forth in the in the broadcasting booth, kind of sniping at each other. And,
that's because you can't hold anything back.
Yeah. And Jimmy Johnson and Bill Cowher in the stands being accosted by like the two crazed fans and everything. One of them was Clint Howard, who's in the whole thing. Yeah. Like, I bet he throws a touchdown pass on the first play, and then like he throws an interception. Yeah, you owe me $50. You said it was going to be a touchdown pass, you crazy asshole. Those are the parts of that movie I kind of find funny. And though this moment doesn't involve him, I mean, in not Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, I mean, there are really, to me, few funnier moments in the history of film. And I do mean this as somebody who watches a lot of old films. But I really think that there are precious few moments funnier than what you've just said. Has to be one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point during your rambling, incoherent response did you come close to producing something that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your...
Just the way that would have been okay.
Yeah, exactly. The way that guy delivers it, just this, because he goes off on this long answer about the puppy that lost its way being like the society during the Industrial Revolution, whatever the hell it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And like everybody like thinks it's a great answer, and then he goes to the moderator who's got this look on his face like he's just heard the most profound thing that he's ever heard in his life. And then he just tears him to shreds with what he says. But like he's just completely even keeled about it. He doesn't like change the inflection of his voice. It's like the most savage put down of all time.
It's funny that like before we all knew who Ben Stiller was, like he was in Happy Gilmore and he was in Heavyweights. Like he played these creepy guys in movies before he was like really like famous, that you would say. Like, I saw him early in his career play creepy people or guys that you don't always, even in Dodgeball, he was kind of a weirdo in that movie.
Yes, he was.
Kind of a weirdo?
I guess my
He's a
favorite.
weirdo, a funny weirdo, but a weirdo.
Yeah, he started kind of sorry, Jeremy. He started kind of doing that. Like he like alternated between like kind of playing these very like broad caricature, like there's no way this person could ever exist in real life type of character, like those movies you mentioned, with doing like the ones where he's like kind of like the sweet, more romantic lead, like in like Meet the Parents and Night at the Museum and stuff like that. So yeah.
So yeah, I would have to say probably my favorite Adam Sandler movie. I would have to say it's a toss-up between Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, his very early work, just because it's those movies were so good from start to finish as far as like comedic movies, and plus they had really good supporting characters in them. Like you had in Billy Madison, you had Chris Farley as the bus driver. Who ate all the sandwiches? And he's sitting behind the bus, giggling and laughing. Just really good stuff. Like you said, Ben Stiller's in the one in Happy Gilmore, which, funny enough, in his most recent movie, the Halloween movie that he did, Ben Stiller's in that movie and he reprises his role as Hal. But now he's in the insane asylum, and he does that same shtick where, hey, you're in my world now. Read the name tag.
Oh no, I didn't see the Halloween movie.
No, I didn't either. But Stiller appears as like that, that nurse character.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And Dan Patrick's in it, because Dan Patrick's in every movie now that Adam Sandler does. He's been in like the last 10, I feel like. If it's a comedy. Shaq pops up in Adam Sandler movies a lot now too. So
yeah. So you got that was cameo galore, that movie. What was it, that Herbie Halloween?
Yeah.
Herbie Halloween. So you had Dan Patrick, as he mentioned, you had Tim Meadows, you had the girl from Happy Gilmore reprise her role in that movie.
The girl,
well, not reprise it, but she was in that movie.
Yeah, the lady from Modern Family.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You had cameos from Rob Schneider near the end of the movie, as well as
his gaggle of friends who pop up, like his friends that pop up in all the movies. Some of them are in it too, like his little gaggle of friends that always show up in his movies.
Maya Rudolph was in it because she plays Tim Meadows' wife. Trying to think who the one guy is, and I can't think. Ray Liotta's in it because he plays what the hell is? I think it's Ray Liotta.
Yeah, it is. Schwartzen was in it somewhere too. I remember Schwartzen being in it somewhere.
So it's just one of those movies where he's like, I'm gonna do this goofy, stupid movie, but I'm gonna put everybody that I love to have in my movies in it, and like I said, it's cameos galore in that movie at points. So that's a really good funny Halloween movie. Who's
another? Tommy Boy's a really good, like Tommy
Chris
Boy.
Farley.
Tommy Boy is one of my favorite like comedies of all time, I think. So
Chris Farley, and we got to bring him up because he's one of those guys that we can only imagine what his work would have been like had he not passed away so young. Like he was one of those people. Unfortunately, his addiction got the best of him, and he passed away way too freaking young, and we didn't get to see enough of his work. And it's unfortunate. I mean, he honestly has said it, when he was doing interviews, he's like, all my characters are the same. I'm just a loud, crazy, fat guy. That was he's like, I'm just the same character all the time. But
fat guy in a little coat. And David Spade was like the perfect like foil to him too. Like he was the perfect guy to be opposite him in Tommy Boy. So they like teamed the right two people up. Because Spade's humor is a little bit different than Chris Farley, so it was like they teamed the right people up. So, like, that movie, I still laugh at the same parts in that movie. I could watch it right now, and I still laugh at the same parts every time I watch that movie.
Well, yeah, at the motel when he's like knocking at the door, hello, room service. Go away. Room service.
For pillow.
Go away.
When he catches us wanking and he's like, who's your favorite little rascal, Alfalfa or Spanky? when he rips the roll up, when he like rips the roll up in the restaurant, and like every time he does like one of those things in that movie, it seems like that was just off the cuff. Or when he sets the car on fire, I think, or whatever. When he's in the
Oh yeah, when he's doing the promo, when he's doing the commercial, so to say, or the pitch, the pitch, and he's like, and along comes the meat wagon. Woo, woo, oh, and, oh my god!
Oh my god! You guys over in the corner puking his guts out. Because you wanted to save a few pennies. To me, that seems like get out.
How many times does he get asked, did you eat paint chips as a kid?
Yeah, or something of that ilk. Yeah, but
Did
I mean,
you grow up on the power line, son?
when you when you bring up Farley, of course, you talk about his like addictions getting the best of him. I mean, by his own admission, he wanted to live fast and die young, just like his idol, that being John Belushi, and unfortunately, he did. And Belushi is another one that's very much like what could he have done had he not died when he did? So
Yeah.
because we know Animal House is great, we know the Blues Brothers is great and everything. So it would have been really interesting to see what else going forward. You kind of assume he still would have done stuff with Dan Aykroyd and everything. So
yeah. And you had Black Sheep was another great Chris Farley movie. Some people didn't like that as much. I thought it was another great movie because there was I thought there was a lot of good humor in it.
No, it was. I think I didn't like Beverly Hills Ninja as much as Black Sheep or Tommy Boy probably.
Yeah, that one was I thought it was funny, but it wasn't up to that level of Tommy Boy or Black Sheep. Like it was definitely a little bit different kind of comedy with the ninja stuff thrown in there. Was a little different. Some of it was a little hard to swallow, but it was really funny when you see Chris Farley doing ninja stuff. That was kind of funny.
Well, I mean, you guys kind of referenced it. I don't know if you said the word, but what a lot of these comedy performers end up facing at some point. And all these guys have done it. Eddie Murphy's had to go through with it. Even like the comedians from, like the older days of Hollywood, whether it was like the Marx Brothers or Laurel and Hardy or Abbott Costello, they all kind of hit the same thing. Is when everything becomes a little too formulaic. And it's like law of diminishing returns. I mean, that's kind of what happened with me with Adam Sandler. It felt like he was doing the same thing all the time. And like you mentioned about Farley, like I'm the same character in every movie and everything. It gets to a point where it's going to stop working and you have to kind of get ahead of it. I think Farley showed that he was trying to with Almost Famous, which is kind of funny because it's both different because it's got a historical setting and everything, but he is still kind of playing the same kind of clumsy oafish fat guy character and everything in it. But I think it was still at least an attempt that showed that he was trying to do something a little bit different, something a little bit that just changed and everything. But that I think ended up being like his last like real starring role that was released after he died and everything. And the other interesting thing too is that I think we've discussed this before, but he was the original voice of Shrek.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, and Shrek actually got delayed by a couple of years because whatever he had like already recorded for it and however they had kind of conceived the character, they had to go back and like kind of start over from scratch almost because they like, we had a particular vision for the character with, Chris's voice. Now we've got to recast the voice. So we got to do something else and everything. And of course we ended up with, Mike Myers doing the fat bastard voice, as Shrek, because the voice that Mike Myers
onions have layers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the voice
worked.
He's speaking with the same Scottish accent as both Fat Bastard and the Austin Powers movies and as Shrek.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Another person that's like funny that his movies have gotten old to me is Will Ferrell. Like I can't I don't even like Elf anymore. Like I used to love that movie and I don't even think it's that funny anymore.
I was never a huge fan of Elf to begin with. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny because apparently the reason there's never been a sequel to Elf is because Ferrell and Jon Favreau didn't get along.
I'm not surprised by that.
I guess I never actually heard that before, so I was a little surprised when I heard it. But I'm like, I guess that does make sense as to why a movie that a lot of people seem to really enjoy and everything, and is damn near 20 years old now, didn't actually have a sequel to it. But that brings up another topic I want to mention a little bit later. But
he's another guy who, like, I think it's harder for me to rewatch his movies and still, like, I like Step Brothers, but
Well, it's funny when I hear Will Ferrell, I don't immediately jump up and like, ooh, I've got to see that movie. Like, Will Ferrell's not one of those comedic actors to me that I'm like, I got to watch the next movie or I got to see it soon. You know, it's just never been that way with me. Anchorman was probably the only movie that came out that I was like, I really want to see that. And that wasn't even because of Will Ferrell. That was because of the other people in it, like Steve Carell. Like, I love Steve Carell. I think he's hilarious.
plug this in.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's strange for me with Ferrell movies. Like, I go kind of like
Charging cord doesn't that go down there?
Know? Like hot or cold, up or down. I mean, like, I watched both of the Daddy Cell movies, but I was like, yeah, these are okay. They're not great.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen some of the more recent ones he did, like the one where he and Amy Poehler build like the casino in their basement. I can't remember what that was called. I didn't see that one. The one that he did with that. The one that he the one that he did with Kevin Hart, where he wants Kevin Hart to like toughen him up because he's going to jail.
That I enjoyed that one. It wasn't overly funny, but there was funny parts. There was some stupid funny in there, especially with Kevin Hart and him together. I enjoyed that.
I just remember like seeing the trailers for those and just going like, those don't seem all that funny. So like I just kind of avoided them. Now, can I see myself watching them at some point in the future? Yeah, sure, but yeah, there's nothing about them that screamed like, oh, I have to go see this. So
the NASCAR one with him, what was
Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
Oh well, actually, another reason why
whatever it was.
Yeah.
Shake it, bake, shake it, bake.
I like that one. That made me laugh. That was
sorry, my iPad's dying, so I had to plug it in. I got to take the mic off.
No worries, man. No worries.
But another reason why I've gone a little sour, cold, whatever you want to describe it with Will Ferrell. I got suckered by him a year or two ago. I went to the movie theater to watch.
Just watch what?
Holmes and
Watson.
Oh, yeah, that was a mistake. I could have told you that.
Well, here was the thing. There were enough moments in the trailer for that made me think that it could have been really funny. It actually worked as a spoof movie, because the spoof movie genre is one that I feel is like really collapsed. Like, Hollywood can't actually produce a good spoof movie anymore. Like, Airplane's a great spoof movie. The Naked Gun's a great spoof movie.
Hot Shots Part 2.
The Hot Shots movie are great spoof movies. But like, ever since like the mid to late 90s, like the kind of spoof movies that they've given us has been like Date Movie and Epic Movie, which were just god awful. Anytime
not another teen movie.
And the Scream spoofs. Oh god, those are awesome.
Not another teen movie worked. Not another teen movie worked, but it's like ones that came after that. And I think, it's because of Scary Movie. The Scary Movie franchise, I think, kind of ruined spoof movies because they started off pretty good and then they just went because they stopped being a spoof of horror movies and they started being a spoof of every movie.
Yeah.
And then so like, every spoof movie that came out afterwards had to throw in a joke about every movie that was made within the last like 2 years prior to that movie coming out, whether or not it had anything to remotely to do with the plot was.
And the Wayans brothers sold those movies, the rights to those movies. They stopped making them too.
Well,
I don't know which one it was that they stopped at, but
the third one, because you know who actually made the third Scary Movie? The guys who made Airplane, or at least one of the guys who made Airplane. But why they ever did like a Scary Movie 4, and didn't they even do a 5?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know why they. I don't really know why they kept going there. But yeah, Holmes and Watson. Holmes and Watson was the closest I ever came to actually walking out of a movie theater.
Wow.
Nice.
I didn't because I still had that overriding feeling. Well, I've already paid my money. Walking out's not going to do any good. I mean,
so I gotta throw an old
pirated copy of that shit.
Yeah, so I gotta throw this one out there because I was a big fan of this guy, very, very in a very young age. Favorite John Candy movie? Yeah, there we go. Throwing out an oldie guy.
Talk about a guy who I really miss. John Candy
Yeah,
was
I know.
so great.
That's
I still kind of remember hearing about when he passed away. It was just
Who's Harry Crumb?
because I was like 13.
That's a good one.
For me, it's always probably The Great Outdoors because I just love the competition, the back and forth between him and Dan Aykroyd in that movie. And there is still like a lot of heart to that movie, and the gags with the bear are great too. So.
Yes, they are. They definitely are.
So I'd probably say The Great Outdoors, but Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is another great one.
That's a toss-up between those two for me.
Spaceballs is obviously great too, but I don't really think of that as a John Candy movie. I think of that as a Mel Brooks movie. So
yes,
that he just happens to be in, But
as Barf.
I'm a Mog, half man, half Mog. I'm my own best friend.
Oh man.
Yeah, my favorite, and I love The Great Outdoors. That is by far way up there on the list. I mean, you're talking when he's being pulled by the speedboat. Go faster! He's back there yelling, "You bastard!"
What did you say? Go faster? Okay.
And the shit's hitting him in the freaking junk and stuff like that. He eats the 96 pounds, the 96 ounce steak and all the fat. All the fat comes home and sees all the maggots and pukes and.
I love that part too because that huge hulking chef is there, and Dan Aykroyd's like, okay, well he's done. He's like, he's not done. What do you mean? There's nothing left on that plate but grizzle and fat. And it's like he's implying that he's got to lick up all the blood or something.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, if I can get it down, can you throw in a T-shirt for the kids?"
If I can get a dessert, you can throw in a couple of T-shirts and hats for the kids. Yeah.
Oh man.
And meanwhile, Candy's either pulling at Aykroyd's sleeve. He's like,
yeah, crying. Oh man. But I mean, in that movie, they even made the squirrels part of the movie. Not the squirrels, the fucking raccoons part of the movie. And in the little dialogue that they were having, they're like, they think these rocks will stop us.
or that after Aykroyd's character is said to him, hot dogs, you know what? Those are made out of lips and assholes. And the raccoons say the same thing a senior later.
Yeah.
So, but probably my favorite John Candy movie is Uncle Buck. I love that movie. Uncle Buck was so good.
Yeah.
I've still never actually seen Uncle Buck. It's actually kind of, I'm one of the few people I'm sure left that actually has an actual Netflix queue, with the discs and everything. Mm-hmm. And it's at the top of my queue, but I keep putting things on top of it because I'm kind of going year by year. So I haven't quite gotten
the damn thing. Stream the shit.
Well, if it was streaming somewhere for free that I knew of, I probably would, but I don't know that it's free anywhere for streaming.
But yeah, that's I love Uncle Buck. There's just, I mean, it's kind of serious too at points, but it's got a lot of good funny parts and stuff like that. And the one kid's name is Bug. He's like, Bug. Just some funny shit with that movie. The last movie that he ever made was Wagons East, and I so much wanted to like that movie, and unfortunately that movie was a pretty big bomb for me as far as comedy movies. That's what I've heard. Yeah, it was very unfortunate.
I think a couple of the movies he did towards the end of his life weren't that good. I remember he also did one called Canadian Bacon,
which
I think was about he played a Canadian postal worker who was afraid the U.S. was going to invade Canada or something like that. I haven't ever watched it, so yeah.
Stripes was good too. Stripes, and that was I can't say that's a John Candy movie because there was other guys in that. That plays a major role in that.
Yeah, I mean that's the Bill Murray movie.
Yeah, but he plays a really good role in that movie with that. So, what are some other movies?
What about the movies that Franco and Rogen and those guys have all made? There's several movies that James Franco and Seth Rogen.
Pineapple Express I thought was terrible. I did not like that movie.
Pineapple Express.
I thought it had its moments, but I thought that it didn't all kind of fit. It was a little too bizarre, really. And
I'll let
let me
you
be,
do it.
and let me be that guy. Oh, anything with Amber Heard now is like,
Who cares about Amber?
I like This Is the End. That was funny.
Is that the one where like they're like, isn't who the hell's in that one? I know Seth Rogen's in it. I know
they're all in it.
Seth Rogen and James Franco and Jonah Hill and Jay Baruchel and Danny McBride.
Isn't that one of them's an alien?
Craig Thompson.
Aren't they like trying to save themselves from like an alien invasion or some shit like that?
Like they're having a huge party at somebody. I think it's at Franco's house, and there's like a bunch of other like famous people who play themselves, like Rihanna and Emma Watson and Michael Cera. And then like suddenly like the world ends.
That's okay. I do remember that. I thought that was pretty funny. It's I haven't seen it in so long though. Like that's one of those movies.
That's the kind of movie that for me didn't really check all the boxes because I thought it went a little too far with some of the things that they did, and like they didn't really like need to do some of the things that they did. And I also think that at the end of the day, that's kind of like that would be like Exhibit A of a bunch of funny people get together in a room and say, let's think of the funniest thing that we can think of. And they only cared about making themselves laugh. They didn't really stop to think that if everybody would find it funny.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The run that he did where he plays like the reporter that starts dating the president or the potential president. I can't remember the name of that. That movie was really funny. It's a romantic comedy, but it's more on the comedy end of things than the romance portion. So that movie was really good.
Yeah,
But,
I watched that. I watched that a few months ago. It was with Charlize Theron, and the name of it is.
She's awesome.
Yeah, it's like she's like the Secretary of State, and she's running for president. He's like a journalist for like a small like left-wing newspaper, but they have like a history in that like she used to babysit for him or something.
Yes.
And yeah, they're like, attracted to each other. And of course, the whole thing is like it would be scandalous for her to start dating him and everything because she's running for president and all that other shit. So yeah.
Yeah. See, I think I liked early Seth Rogen because his stuff is starting. A lot of his stuff is starting because it's just like mega pothead stuff. And not that I don't think that stuff can be funny, but then when that seems to be like the only type of movie that you're creating, like is you being a pothead. Just because you're a pothead in real life, doesn't really make me laugh all the time. Like I loved 40-Year-Old Virgin. That movie was fucking fantastic. Yeah. And Rogen plays an awesome part in that movie. And so does, damn it, I can't think of his name. Not Steve Carell, but the, why can't I think of his name? Paul Rudd. Thank you. Paul Rudd's character's awesome in that movie. So, and so is I don't know the black gentleman's name. I have no idea, but because I think he's only ever been in that movie. I don't think he ever did another movie after that. But
Romany Malco.
Okay.
Yeah, he has done stuff after that. Unfortunately, one of the big things that he did after that was The Love Guru, which is pretty much was pretty much universally panned and hated. So
yeah, that movie was bad.
That didn't really help him.
Yeah, but I mean that movie was amazing, like just funny and it was raunchy humor. So let's talk about a little raunchy humor. So 40-Year-Old Virgin, super raunchy humor, like
knocked up, super raunchy.
40-Year-Old Virgin was raunchy humor, but it was done in a way that kind of like made sense, if you know what I mean. It was like because it's about a guy who's not sure of himself, and he's like trying to navigate something that's like basically foreign to him. While having other people around him who like are all giving him advice of how to do it their way, and he basically doesn't really need any of their advice because you could pretty much argue that none of their advice helps him. So,
yes, like when he's on I can't remember. I think it's it's Malcolm. He's like you gotta 20, 30 hoes. You gotta go in, knock them out, and then you can go and be with her because you'll know what you need to do. Like, oh my god. And what's her name's in that movie too? The girl that gets really drunk and she's like, I could go some fucking waffles. I need some fucking waffles right
Elizabeth Banks.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No, he means Leslie Mann, who's Judd Apatow's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. She is that. That scene where he's
It's
like,
funny.
they're driving and she's like fucking swerving and she's like, get the fuck out the way. And then all of a sudden she pukes on him. He's like, did you have fish today? Or seafood today? He's like, yeah. He's like, I can taste it. Like, oh, that's so nasty.
Pat, did you guys ever see Why Him with Franco and Bryan Cranston? Like, that movie's really funny. Like,
No.
No,
I really liked that one. Like, that one specifically, I remember seeing that one multiple times, and I really thought that one was funny. And Bryan Cranston's really funny in that movie too. So,
yeah,
Right.
that just looked a little too like to me. I was just like, this looks a little too broad for me, basically.
Franco's an actor. I'm not a big fan of him. I've never really have been. I've seen I've seen a bunch of movies he's been in, but it's hard for me with him.
Mhm.
I just can't get into that guy.
and I like his brother too, like Neighbors and 21 Jump Street movies. Like, I like his brother too. I think he's funny too. So
Yeah, and see, Neighbors was really good, and there's another
Yeah,
Seth
Neighbors
Rogen
was
movie.
good.
That movie was really, really good.
The Seth Rogen movie that killed it for me is when they did Green Hornet.
Oh
that
God.
one was a little bit. That one was definitely.
The biggest
Killed me.
the biggest problem with the Green Hornet is
It's the Green Hornet.
he couldn't decide which way to go. There was like a line between like serious and comedy, and he kept swerving back and forth throughout the whole throughout the entire length of the movie. You can't have a movie like that be so tonally inconsistent.
Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, makes sense. Seth Rogen, Green Hornet, no, doesn't make sense at all.
Bless you, sir.
Thanks, I'm getting COVID.
I think.
No.
No.
Shut up.
I like,
That's a running joke in my office. If one person sneezes, and somebody else will inevitably get COVID.
I think
Oh
I
my
like
God.
when Ryan Reynolds plays snarky. I think Ryan Reynolds is really good at playing the sarcastic, snarky person, like he does in Van Wilder. Like, I feel like every time I see him, he's so good at the snarky, smartass, like
Jackass.
sarcastic. Yeah.
And that's why Deadpool was such a good series, those two movies, because he could play, that was like the perfect superhero role for him to play, you know, the anti-hero.
Because he gets to be snarky.
The snark, the fourth wall breaks. They're not really taking it too seriously
Write
in
that
a
down.
lot of ways. But
That's right.
I want to
but
see his new movie.
again, like that also was true to the comics and everything. So like that's why like when Ryan Reynolds was initially cast as Green Lantern, I went, wait,
What?
you sure? Because to
Yeah.
me I had a certain image of Green Lantern, especially Hal Jordan, and Ryan Reynolds wasn't it. I even remember saying to my dad, you know what superhero Ryan Reynolds would be great at? He would be great as the Wally West version of the Flash. You know, especially if he did him the way he was done in like the Justice League cartoons. You know, like never taking things too seriously, always wisecracking. I'm like, Ryan Reynolds would be great as that, and obviously he was great as Deadpool. I said, but as Hal Jordan Green Lantern, and I'm not so sure, and it really didn't.
I just think that movie was poorly done.
It
could have been so much more.
Yep,
Yeah.
that was disappointing, and I don't really think it was Reynolds' fault, but
No.
I also don't think that he was necessarily the right person.
There's
that.
a scene in Van Wilder that's I still watch and I gag when they put the jizz and the dog jizz and the donuts and the guy and it's like coming out of their mouths and they're like, oh my God, this is so warm and good.
So
gooey,"
good.
and
Oh, that's the funny part.
that part is great, but I do when they're even though we know it's not real, it's still watching. It's like, ooh.
Yeah. And then if you want to talk another raunchy movie that's comedy, you got to go with The Wedding Crashers. The Wedding Crashers is one of those raunchy comedy movies. I mean, just from the get-go, when his secretary's like, "I'll set you, I can set you up with one of my friends." He's like, no, I don't really. And he goes, and then he turns it into this thing. It's gonna get weird because I like to play this game called Just a Tip, where we try it out a little bit and then we see how it goes. And, it's just like, oh my god,
that movie is very entertaining.
Yes. And then at the wedding, he's like, "I got a stage 5 clinger." You pack. What does he say to him? He's like, "Oh my god."
And that's when Will Ferrell's like, "You got to go to funerals to pick up women."
Oh yeah. And see, Will Ferrell's funny in that movie.
Yeah.
That's another movie that I'm not so sure you could get away with making today.
Yeah, probably not.
Unfortunately not.
Because I
Dr.
think
Quinn Medicine was funny in that too.
I think you'd get a lot of sexism, misogynistic complaints about that movie, which I can see. I mean, they are literally, crashing weddings just so they can
get laid.
Just so they can get their rocks off. It's like
get laid. Yeah,
maybe it works.
Get their dick wet. Yeah.
If you wanted to do like a female version of that, then maybe you could kind of put some of that to rest. But I don't know if that would work. I don't know. But that also brings me to a topic that I'd like to talk about.
Well, just a sec before you start that, I got to say probably one of my, there's a lot of good funny moments, but one of probably the most visually entertaining moments for me is the montage that they do of the ladies falling down. And I know I'm being very chauvinistic and very piggish, but it is probably one of like in a movie sense, like in a comedy movie, you just don't expect it. And all of a sudden these ladies just start flopping down and none of them have tops on. So all of them, and they're all these gorgeous women. I'm like, this is
and more boobs.
Yeah, it's just like boob central. I'm like, oh my god, and of course I watched this with my wife one time. Like we were just like, oh, let's put this movie on, and she's like, I forget, she said something funny to me, and I was just like, yep, right, yep.
Did you guys like the Hangover movies, like the first one maybe, and then after that?
The first one was good, yeah.
Well,
I never saw the second one. I don't think.
Third one was better than the second for me, but
that's kind of leading directly to where I wanted to talk about, which is
cool.
Harold and Kumar.
Harold and Kumar, yeah.
Comedy sequels.
Oh yeah.
A mixed bag to say the least, but I tend to feel like comedy sequels are unnecessary. And a lot of them,
Brothers
I think,
2000.
A lot of them, I think, fail more than they succeed for any number of reasons. Now, let's just kind of start with The Hangover, because we talked about that. The first one, I think, just blew everybody away. Like it was one of those movies that nobody's like expecting, and it just clicks with audiences for some reason. And a lot of people thought it was really funny, and I thought that first one was funny too. And then I watched the second one, and the second one so repulsed me that I never bothered to watch the third one.
See, I don't think I saw the second one. I can't even remember.
Dr. Ken, I think Dr. Ken's like locked in a ice chest, or like locked. Dr. Ken was in the second one a little bit more, so I think I liked the second one because he was in it more. I felt like, and I think he's funny.
I like Ken Jeong. I mean, I watched Community from the first episode and everything throughout the entire series run, and he, of course, was very much featured in that. But I never found his character in The Hangover to be that funny, to be honest. But the second Hangover, it really seemed to be, again, to me, it committed two mistakes that I feel like a lot of them.
All three of those movies are like the same thing over, essentially. So
yeah. I really feel like this Hangover 2 did two things that I feel like a lot of comedy sequels that are bad do. One, they did basically the same plot, they just put it in a different location.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And two, they said, well, we've got to be dirtier or raunchier, or we have to have like more like visual gags that are like could potentially turn off people and stuff like that. So I feel like they really did that with Hangover 2, and I just disliked it so much. I'm like, I never bothered with the third one.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, and me personally, I like.
And am I running slow or are you guys?
I like American Wedding better than American Pie and American Pie 2. So, like, I think those movies, I think all the first three at least, I think are all pretty good. So,
See, I liked American Wedding, but it definitely was not my favorite of those. I thought American Pie 2 was probably my favorite. Because I just liked.
That was my least favorite.
See, I liked more of the interaction with Stifler because I felt like Stifler had a bigger role in American Pie 2.
He had the biggest role in American Wedding. That's why I liked that one so much, because Stifler was a focal character in the third one.
Right. And I could see why you would not like American Pie 2, because Kevin is an annoying character, can be a very annoying character in that movie, like that role that he played. So, because he's like whining and bitching like almost the entire movie because he wants Tara, what the heck was her name?
Tara Reid's character.
Yeah, Tara Reid's character. I couldn't think of her last name, but he wanted her character the whole time, and he's like being a whiny bitch about it. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up.
I didn't really like the movies like that they did with the other people, those, but like even American Reunion, I enjoyed that one too. So like I think those movies did okay, other than the Naked Mile, and those ones were but the actual ones with the main characters, I actually liked all of those movies. I don't think like there was a huge gap where like Jeremy said he likes the second one and I said I like the third one. So the first one the second and third one didn't really fail, I don't think, after the first one. So I think that's an example where I think they actually didn't fail like the second and third time around.
Well, and they continued the story. They didn't rerun the same story. That's what made those different. They didn't try and rerun the story. They tried to extend the story and throw in the gag humor and the stupidity of these guys as they got older and stuff.
And Jim does something stupid in every movie.
Yeah.
And Stifler drinks pee, jizz, and eats poop. So in 3 of the movies, he does something with all bodily fluids.
Yes, in the first one, what is he? So Jim fucks the pie in the first one. The second one, he glues
his hand to his penis.
I can't. I'm glued. I'm glued.
Oh man.
And in the third one, isn't he getting a blowjob underneath the table?
Yes.
Like when his dad's there.
And his pants fall down, and he's got a boner.
Good stuff.
Well, and that
was a successful franchise that had successful sequels.
And dogs, when like it looks like the dog is fucking him, and then the little dog is fucking Stifler's leg. Like the scene with the dog. Well, really, and it's even that. Then there's when the naked chicks are in with the bachelor party, and they're pouring the syrup all over like that. Like there's a bunch of stuff in that movie that's fucked up that happened.
Good stuff.
But like Blues Brothers, and then you have Blues Brothers 2000. Blues Brothers 2000 was terrible. Like that was bad.
Well, that's. I mean, there's a way you can tell if a comedy sequel is going to be bad. Well, a couple ways. One is if it's been a long time since the original was made, which is true for Blues Brothers 2000. And another one is if they have to replace one of the main actors from the first movie, which is obvious with Blues Brothers 2000. Like, does anybody remember Son of the Mask?
Oh,
yep.
I remember the title, and that was about it. And I was like, oh my god, why did they redo this?
I watched
exactly.
The other bad thing was Jamie Kennedy was in it, and he's not. I never found him funny at all.
Yeah, I don't really
not a big fan of him.
So,
it was just bad. I mean,
that one wasn't very good either.
Yeah, the Dumb and Dumber prequel I was going to mention too.
Yeah, that was bad.
You're asking like other people to, play the other character, play like another different character. I mean, hell, you can say that's another reason why like Solo didn't do as well at the box office. Like, nobody but Harrison Ford can be Han Solo. But anytime I think you have things like that coming together, then it's definitely a recipe for disaster. I think the other problem is that studio executives, I mean, they see a movie make money. They assume they'll be able to make money again with the same thing. I mean, that's why we have movie franchises. But I think with comedies, it's also trickier because you don't know how people are going to respond to like the same jokes. You don't know it really you have to find a balance between doing the same jokes that you did in the first movie that people like while also doing new stuff that, so that you don't like repeat the same thing over and over again.
Grown Ups is a good example. I like Grown Ups 1 and Grown Ups 2 kind of shit the bed in my opinion. So
Yeah. Grown Ups 2 was funny, but not.
Yeah, not the same.
The first, no,
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
not the same.
like I was thinking of like Super Troopers 2, which I enjoy. It's not as good as the first one though.
I've actually never seen that. I want to watch it.
I mean, it came out so many years after the first one, so that's not a great sign. Like they actually had to go to like crowdfunding to like raise enough money to make the movie, and I think that was because like their other movies had started doing less at the box office and didn't become like big cult hits the way
the Beer Fest was good. I thought Beer Fest was really funny.
Yeah.
But I thought that one did a decent job of making enough like kind of callbacks and references to the first movie without doing it constantly. And like it was like the same characters acting pretty much in the same way that you like, but there are some like like you can see like growth patterns and stuff like that or whatever. But like a lot of comedy movies just like kind of refuse to go that route. But again, like what I was saying, I think like a lot of comedy movies like the first one will do like really good box office, and so executives think that means that people definitely want to see a second one, and then you'll see a second one come out and the box office will be so much less. Like Hangover 2 to Hangover 3 was like that. You mentioned Neighbors before. Neighbors 2 did so much smaller box office than the first one did. So, and I don't know about Anchorman, but that one I think could almost be kind of thrown into that same classification as well. I think Anchorman 2. I think Anchorman 2 probably did more money at the box office than the first one did, because the first one I think was one of those movies that became more of a hit, like on DVD.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm trying to think of one that didn't have a sequel made that you thought. Okay, Dodgeball, for example. Yeah. Dodgeball was a pretty big unexpected hit at the box office, I think, but they've never done a sequel to it.
And I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
Do we think a sequel would have really been that good? I mean, because you can really only do so many jokes with, getting hit in the face with a ball,
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Right, but it's like you couldn't have tried to like repeat that movie in some way. So it's like I'm almost kind of surprised that they never did make a sequel to that, and I'm glad that they didn't.
Yes. Very much.
Joe,
Ted 2 is another one where like the box office.
Joe, you brought up Harold and Kumar. I forgot until I was looking the other day. I forgot that they did a Harold and Kumar Save Christmas too. Like I saw all of them, but I forgot about that one. So.
Oh yeah.
Harold and Kumar escape Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
Well, that was the second.
Yeah.
I enjoyed those movies too. I enjoyed all three of those movies. So.
No, they're funny movies. I really like those movies.
I like parts of all those, but Harold and Kumar 2 again definitely fits that whole like, well, we got to be raunchier than the first one was type deal.
That's you're probably right about that, Pat. So
but they all definitely have their moments, and of course one of the things, of course, that makes those movies work is that Neil Patrick Harris just steals every single one of them. So.
Come on, he's shooting women at the whorehouse.
Wasn't the Christmas one where they had they went to the house to get the Christmas tree and the kids were like challenging to beer pong?
Well, it's like
I never saw that one.
He burns his father-in-law's like prized family Christmas tree, and he's like frantically replacing it because he thinks his father-in-law doesn't respect him and everything already, and his father-in-law's played by Danny Trejo, so. Yeah, it's like you cross Danny Trejo, you could end up dead.
I just remember in the first one when they find the car and he's like, yeah, there might be some stains all over the seats.
Wasn't the first one Harold and Kumar go to White Castle?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Wherever the road takes me.
And it's funny to me that the guy that plays Shitbreak and then the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You, they're just like trying to watch the scene with Katie Holmes that shows her boobs. So, and the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You is the guy who's like, there's a dick on my face, right? That's all I can ever think about that guy. Is he's like, there's a dick on my face, right?
I got a dick right there.
Oh man, so it's funny. We've talked about so many different types of comedy movies. Like we've hit on the raunchy, we've hit on the slapstick, we've hit on the just outrageously stupid stuff. Like it just goes to show you, it doesn't matter if it's what it is, TV shows, movies, just there's comedy out there for everybody. Like everybody can enjoy a good comedy movie. I mean, we can even go back, like even like action comedies, like Eddie Murphy with the fucking Beverly Hills Cop movies. There's boy, oh boy, I suck with words sometimes. There is a franchise that I think all three movies did very well.
Yeah.
None of them were as good as the original, but they all did well overall. But those movies were great, and those were action comedies. So even if you wanted comedy and you wanted action movies, you could find like an action comedy, which is crazy to me. Like you just don't have that many crossover things.
There's that too.
Yeah.
What, Joe?
Like a sci-fi comedy.
Yeah, Ghostbusters, sci-fi comedy type of thing.
Men in Black would classify as a sci-fi comedy. I mean, Rush Hour were like were definitely action comedies.
Yeah, those were definitely action comedies, and those were funny. I like Chris Tucker. Like I thought he was really, really funny in those movies.
I enjoyed those movies.
When he's teaching Jackie Chan how to sing War.
Oh man.
It's not you all, it's y'all.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Those two are just good together in those films, though.
Yeah,
too.
they did. That was kind of like lightning
good
and bottle, kind of. Sometimes you just put two people together and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were good together.
And then you also have, if you think about it, White Man Can't Jump. That's a basketball comedy movie because there's some comedy and there's some pretty good amount of comedy.
Well, I mean,
there's sports comedies, like Slapshot and Major League. And,
the Mighty Ducks is probably you could call those comedies.
Happy Gilmore basically qualifies as a sports comedy
so some of our sports movies that we talked about are also comedies.
Yeah, the longest yard, The Replacements.
Now, which longest yard, the original or the remake?
Necessary Roughness.
I love Necessary Roughness. Rob Schneider is the funniest part. It's the funniest part of that movie as the radio announcer. He's like, incidentally, sports fans, quarterback Paul Blake is the only member of the team alive when the Beatles were still together. Or it's like, we hope you stay for us for our halftime festivities as the Texas State Marching Band presents their tribute to gun racks and open beverage containers, which is only legal in Texas. But the funny part for him is like, fumbalaya, fumblerooski.
I like Rob Schneider a lot, so.
Oh man.
He's hilarious. He's hilarious in that movie, though. As the
Bigelow, like the first one was better than the second one. And
well, there's another one for the list of did not need a sequel.
Yeah, European Gigolo was not good.
I like the hot chick, like that Rob Schneider was in. Like I like his stuff too. So like I always liked seeing him in Adam Sandler movies because I think he's funny also.
It's kind of funny though mentioning Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo. I think that movie and Scooby-Doo 2.
So bad.
I think those are the only movies I have ever seen where they were sequels that I have not seen the original.
Wow. That's
and
crazy.
There, of course, is one reason, and one reason only, I have seen those two movies.
He's pointing at me.
He didn't have anybody to go see those movies with, so I agreed to go along.
Sucker.
So you saw sequels and I'll see the originals. Oh, yeah.
And Deuce Bigelow, the original Deuce Bigelow is really funny. Like just in the beginning when he's out doing his run, the garage door's coming up and he goes out to do his run and the old guy's passing him. He's like, on your left, and he hits him with the freaking 5-pound weight in the face.
Well, yeah, because AJ had to explain to me about the girl, I guess, that he marries at the end of the first one, who they write off as having been killed in the second one. Like she appears for 30 seconds in the second one and everything. He literally in the theater had to explain all of that to me real quickly, just so I understood where it was.
That's what I remember from those movies. That's a huge bitch. and Eddie Griffin like dropping the ice cream in the hot tub and then eating it. He would drop food in the hot tub and then eat it.
Yeah, there's French fries at one point in time, ice cream.
And then
Oh,
all the women
hot tub time machine.
Like the one had narcolepsy and she like fell asleep in her soup. All the crazy women he had to like date in the first one.
Yeah.
Yes, hot tub time machine there, Theo. Absolutely. But there was another one. They didn't have to do the sequel. They did not have to do a hot tub time machine 2. Like there was no need.
Yeah.
They couldn't get the everybody from the first one back. You know, John Cusack didn't want to do the second one, so it's like, well, what's the point then? You know?
Yep.
And that's not me trying to compare John Cusack to Adam Scott, because Adam Scott's a very fine comedic actor.
Yeah.
It's just that if you can't get it to be the exact same cast that you had in the first one, it's going to lose something. It just is.
Yeah. And you know, all the characters are really funny, but it's like, what do you do the second time around? Like, I saw the second one, but I was like, this is like not as good. Like,
I remember the first one. I remember the first one because so much because he wins all the money because a squirrel makes it so the kicker for the Broncos misses the kick against the Clowns. And that's where he wins all his money because of the Browns and the Broncos.
Yeah. Yes.
I remember that part of it. I still remember when we went to see Anger Management. The guy that's like, you gotta dope that shit. Everybody's like, hey Matt, look, you're in this movie.
That's true.
I'm like, they found a version of me. They found something similar to me in a movie.
Yes, they did. Oh man, but yeah, there's just so many good comedies. So I think that leads us into a stumper. Do we have a stumper for tonight, gentlemen? I will take your silence as nobody thought of a stumper.
No, I don't think
this show is not very well put together this week.
We got nothing.
Do comedies typically win Academy Awards?
No.
No. Somebody once joked that it's easier to literally die while making a movie than it is to win an Oscar for making a comedy.
Which is so sad.
And in actuality, it really is only a slight exaggeration. Comedies just don't get, aren't the movies that they pick, like, for award seasons, which is why I've always kind of been grateful for the Golden Globes, because they have, the best film, musical or comedy category. But of course, they've also put like The Tourist and The Martian in that category over the years. So it's like, I don't, it's like, okay, The Martian had a few comedic elements, like when Matt Damon's stuck on the planet and he's making jokes about how oh shucks, he's still alive, and talking about having to use his own waste, to fertilize the food that he's growing, that he's surviving and everything. But it's like, the movie's not a comedy.
It's definitely not.
Remotely close.
Yeah, so
since we have no stumper and we've gone on quite a bit about really good comedies, old comedies, new comedies, all different genres of comedies, I think it's time that we do the Mount Rushmore then.
Sure.
All right. More this week is going to be our favorite comedy. We'll just say of all time, I guess. We'll just go with favorite comedy all time. Now, it's going to be pretty tough because there are so many comedy movies out there, and we like so many different things. But you got to try and pick your favorite comedy of all time. And we'll put that on Mount Rushmore this week. So I'll start us off this week.
Okay.
With favorite comedy of all time. And boy, it's tough because some have sentimental value to me. But probably my favorite comedy of all time has got to be Tommy Boy. Like, Tommy Boy was just one of those movies that I can sit down and watch and laugh every single time that I fucking watch that movie. And it's so funny because my wife loves that movie too. And we can sit down and I can watch it with her, or stupid shit that'll come up like during a conversation, like with family, and all of a sudden we'll just start going into lines of that fucking movie. Just going into lines like the other night, we had my sister-in-law over, and they were talking about ants, and they're like, ants, and then all of a sudden it turned into bees. They're attacking us, killer bees! Like, run for your life! Your bullets cannot stop them. You know?
Oh my God, my flamethrower are good though. I'll burn them bastards.
So it's just like stupid shit like that. Like, there's just so many good memories of that movie, so many funny parts in that movie that I can't help but laugh every time I watch that. And we always do the, like, anytime somebody hurts, like, got a sore spot on them, we're like, it doesn't hurt right here or right here, but really, like, right here. You know? So it's just, like I said, it's just one of those movies that it never has gotten old. It stood the test of time. I think anybody could go back and watch that movie now that's a younger kid and can watch that movie and enjoy it. Like, it's just I think that's one of those movies that's going to be timeless, that you're just going to be able to watch no matter what generation you are. So I throw Tommy Boy up on Mount Rushmore. All right, I'm going to kick it over to AJ.
I specifically didn't bring this movie up so we could talk about it now. Tropic Thunder is my favorite comedy movie. I actually saw that with Pat. We actually saw that movie together. And I watched that movie. I could turn it right now, and I'm going to laugh at the same exact parts. Like, just everything that all the guys in that movie have moments to. It's not one person. It's everybody's funny at one point or another. When you go to when I was at the theater, when you see the beginning and you're like, what the hell are these trailers for these other movies? And they're showing, like, Jack Black and his family farting.
Hey,
That's priceless.
you left the fridge open.
And the booty sweat. The booty sweat.
Man.
And, like, Downey's so good in that movie. And, like, I just, like, and when Ben Stiller's doing the Simple Jack stuff, I'm on the ground rolling. I'm sorry, but it is hilarious. So, and Jack Black, when he's like, I'll lick the balls, I'll swallow the gravy. Like, everybody in that movie, and Tom Cruise, that might be the best cameo ever in a movie for me. Tom Cruise is so good in that movie, and we've never really seen him play a jackass before, and he is such an asshole.
Well, so, it's really like, in a lot of ways, the only time he's ever really done a comedy too.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that he was going to be in that, but that they said, like, you know, he's like unrecognizable and blah blah blah, and of course, like, you know, you recognize his voice and everything, but yeah, obviously, like, you know, the makeup that they put him in as Les Grossman was something. But of course, you know, that became its own thing, because remember they had him like as Les Grossman host like the MTV Movie Awards the one year and everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, to me, one of the funniest things, and this is kind of like, your mileage may vary if you honestly think this is funny or not. I remember there was a big controversy about that movie, but it wasn't for the fact that Robert Downey Jr. was in blackface. Mm-hmm. It was because of all the Simple Jack stuff.
Boy, that shit is so funny.
And it is. I'm sorry, but it is.
No, both parts of that are funny for several reasons. Because, again, it's Stiller directed it, and it really is pointing the satirical lens back at Hollywood. So the whole conversation that, like, Stiller and Downey's characters have about, comparing Simple Jack to Forrest Gump and I Am Sam and everything, it is talking. It's like a satire about the lengths that actors will go to, presumably to try to win an award.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Downey's character doing the blackface thing. And of course, that's also talking about how for years throughout Hollywood, characters that are supposed to be like minorities have been played by white actors. So it's like, to me, they both worked on a satirical level. It's like, if you're getting offended by it, you're missing the point of the satire, and that's really what the whole thing was. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously, Tom Cruise just really does.
When he's like, literally, fuck your own like into his phone.
oh, okay, Asian Dawn, fuckface. First of all, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face. And then just that whole rant that he does. Then I've told my younger sister that if my nieces and nephews get out of line, I will, start doing that rant at them and try to eliminate the curse words. and just talk about, like, raining down an ungodly firestorm upon them, and that I will massacre you. So,
that was actually the first time I saw Danny McBride, and I also like him, and that was my first time really seeing him in a movie. And even McConaughey's good. Everybody's good in that movie. So
I was talking to somebody about that movie a week or two ago, and I said I think that was the movie that started to kind of rehabilitate McConaughey's image, because I think it was by that time, like, he had made a bunch of bad movies, and he was making just like nothing but those bad romantic comedies. And I said I think that was the first time that people got a sense that he was, like, actually also making fun of himself in a lot of ways, and that people maybe started to, like, kind of reappraise him and everything. So I really think that helped his career a lot too.
So I saw the movie with Pat, and me and Pat don't always agree on stuff, but I think it's a movie that me and Pat both went and saw together and actually enjoyed. Like, we think it's a really funny movie.
Yeah, it's definitely really hilarious. Yeah.
But yeah, when Downey Jr., I have to just, like, when Downey Jr. and freaking Ben Stiller are having that talk, and he's in full, Downey Jr.'s in full blackface, and he's just like, yeah, you never go full tard. I'm like, oh my God. Like, well, I literally hit the floor. I was like, this is just unbelievable.
Well,
like,
you know what else? You know what else is great about that movie too? If you were ever to buy, like, the DVD or the Blu-ray, you have to listen to the commentary track with Stiller, Black, and Downey, because Downey's character in the movie says, like, I don't drop character till I've done a DVD commentary track. So throughout the whole movie, he's doing the Lincoln Osiris voice. Like he's doing, like, the voice of, like, the black drill sergeant character that he plays. And then, like, when he stops being that guy and he goes back to being, like, the Australian, guy who he, like, is, then he starts speaking like him. And then, like, right at the end, like, I think when the credits start rolling, he starts speaking, like, as Robert Downey Jr. for the first time. And Stiller even says something like, "Oh, Robert Downey Jr., when did you get here?"
Oh my God.
But it's like it's a pretty hilarious commentary track because they're all in the room together. Like, the best commentary tracks on DVDs are when, like, they're all in the same room at the same time, and it's not just, like, edited together, because they're sharing stories, like, going back and forth about, like, what it was all like and what they found funny and everything. And Jack Black gets, like, food delivered while they're recording too, and they're both like, what the hell? You ordered food and didn't ask us if we wanted any?
Oh, man, that's
It's
funny.
a really good,
right.
Just like I said, everybody is good. Everybody has their moments. Like, it's not one person hogging the limelight. It's just everybody was really funny in that movie. So that one, for me, is probably always going to be my favorite funny movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, like literally everybody has at least one funny moment in that movie, whether it's Jay Baruchel or Danny McBride or Nick Nolte or
Bill Hader
or Steve Coogan or Bill Hader. Yep. So everybody has, like, a funny moment.
All right, kicking it over to Theo, the Joe Man. Favorite comedy of all time?
So, this is
well, we're waiting. Sorry, I had to do the Caddyshack.
I can still mute your fucking ass. This one's like, okay, maybe I can't on my tablet. Oh, shit, I'll there. I don't know. There's a lot to choose from. I kind of, this movie kind of, I think, led up to another actor, Robert Williams, doing Mrs. Doubtfire, because I really loved Mrs. Doubtfire. But this is an 80s movie, and has Dustin Hoffman in it. And I just find it hilarious, and that's Tootsie.
Wow, you did go old school with that one. That's for sure.
I did. I just enjoyed the movie. I thought it was funny as hell when I was a teenager when I first saw it. I think I was a freshman in high school. And I've heard about it, but I watched it with some friends. And I just found it funny, just doing the whole drag thing and everything with that other guy. What was his name in that movie? Charles something, that thought, he was in love with somebody who was really not a woman. And it was a man. But
I watched that movie a lot when I was a kid, too. I watched that movie a lot. It was funny.
I just found that it was, for me, it was a very funny movie. And then when Robin Williams made Miss Doubtfire, I was like, oh, it's kind of like a similar concept or whatever, but done differently, and I enjoyed that too. Robin Williams is always one of my favorite stand-up comedians.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good Tootsie, growing Tootsie, a little old school, 1982ish.
Yeah. So Tootsie, all right. And last, and definitely least. Just kidding. Darth Pat, what is your favorite all-time comedy? Yes, and thank you for the bird.
Cuckoo nest? Okay.
Well, I'm going. It's really hard for me to pick one. I mean, the Marx Brothers movie Duck Soup is just one of the funniest movies of all time. I'm pretty sure you guys haven't seen it. I mean, the movie's practically 90 years old now, but so many of the jokes still work. And it's funny because the movie flopped when it first came out because people didn't quite get the anti-war sentiment of the film, but it kind of eerily predicted Nazism in a few ways because like Adolf Hitler was just about coming into power when that movie was first released. So it was kind of an interesting thing. One of the great black comedies of all time that also again had its basis in reality was Dr. Strangelove. It was just a comedy. It's a Stanley Kubrick movie. It's about Peter Sellers playing multiple characters, and it's about like what would happen if the people that could literally press the button to drop the nuclear bombs were all idiots.
Yeah.
I mentioned Airplane before, again, as being one of the great spoof movies where I think really like all the jokes work in that. And the fact that so many of the characters play completely deadpan, especially Robert Stack, and Leslie Nielsen really helps that. But the one that I'm going to have to pick is the one above all others is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I was wondering if you were going to pick that.
I just really have to. I mean, I can still remember the first time my dad showed me that movie when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And at first I didn't get quite a bit of it, but as like the years have gone by, again, it's a movie I could probably recite if I really had to. But right from the beginning, it starts off. It's like with the opening credits. It's playing this like really like overly dramatic music, and then there has all these subtitles that are supposed to be Swedish that start saying about taking a holiday in Sweden, and then like, oh, my sister got bit by a moose once, and then like the credits like stop and it says that they fired the people who were responsible for the subtitles, and then they repeat that joke 2 more times before they finish the end credits, and then the first sight that you see in the movie then is 2 guys pretending to ride horses while one of them is banging coconuts together. And the reason for it being, of course, is that they had so little money to do the movie, they literally could not afford horses. So that was why the whole banging the coconuts together became a part of the movie, and it's such a vital part of the movie then. Mm-hmm. And of course, the French taunter character played by John Cleese makes reference of it at the end of the movie. It's like, so you thought you could act with us French folk with your silly knees bent running about the fencing behavior, eh? So just... I mean, again, it's so many different forms of comedy that exist in it too. They get like dirty and raunchy with it. It's what they could for like the mid '70s, at the time and everything. And the fact that it, of course, in true Monty Python fashion, that it doesn't have the punchline of the ending because when they're about to invade the castle, the police come and arrest them all. It's anarchy at its best, basically, because they just, they kind of flies in the face of expectations. So, it's just, it's hilarious from start to finish. So, I got to go with Monty Python.
Yeah, no, that movie is freaking hilarious. Like you said, with the French guy, I fart in your general direction.
Yep. I mean, the funny thing too is like when I first saw Monty Python's Life of Brian a few years later, which a lot of people say is the superior film, I said it might be the superior film. I just don't think it's as funny, and I don't like it as much. While it's still very, very good. I remember I first got upset at the end of watching Monty Python Life of Brian because they're all up on the crosses being crucified, while they're singing "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life." But I think it was my younger sister who reminded me. But in Holy Grail, the cops just come and arrest them all. So that movie doesn't have a real ending either. And then I went, holy shit, you're right. So, it kind of helped me appreciate that more in that respect too. So,
Yeah.
But Monty Python, all the Monty Python movies are hilarious.
Yeah. In The Black Knight, he cuts off his arm. He's like, but it is a scratch.
It is but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off. I've had worse. You liar.
And then by the time he gets down to it, he's just a head. He's like, come here, I'll bite your ankles.
It's a good movie.
So,
and,
yes.
and of course, the Knights who say knee who want a shrubbery, and it's like
we are the Knights
horrible.
of Knee, and we demand a shrubbery. Oh my God. Yeah, that movie is just really funny stuff. And surprisingly, can you believe it? We didn't actually talk about Robin Williams when we talked about comedies. Isn't that crazy? Because Robin Williams has probably done so many comedy movies. It's kind of crazy that we didn't think about it or talk about it. But
I'll be honest. I don't like talking about Robin Williams a lot, and the reason for it is because the end of his life just
unfortunate.
Just such a tragedy, really. And it's like, I guess apparently now we know that one of the reasons he did it is because I think he's found out he was suffering from Lewy body dementia, which is pretty well fatal. I think everybody who gets that will, dies of it eventually. And he just couldn't go through it or whatever. But it's just so sad to think about a man that, was so funny and did so many great comedies, that he would be in such condition, I guess you want to say, that decided that was what he had to do. So
yeah.
It's hard to talk about everything. I mean, we didn't talk about any of John Hughes' movies either, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and stuff like that. So
yeah, true. There's just too much to cover. But to recap our Mount Rushmore of favorite comedy movies of all time, we have Tommy Boy, Tropic Thunder, Tootsie, and Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Wow. 3 of them start with a T. Tommy Boy, Tootsie, and Tropic Thunder.
Yes. Quite an eclectic Mount Rushmore this time with the favorite comedy movies. Was definitely thrown off by 2 of them for sure. I did not expect Tropic Thunder or Tootsie to be thrown in there, but just kind of shows you where we all come from and how many different comedy movies are out there and what we all enjoy and like. So what's our topic next time? I don't think I know either. I don't think any of us know. So we're gonna have something, guys.
Up in the air.
It's up in the air. You're gonna have to tune in right now to our next episode to find out what we talk about, because even we don't know. This is how well organized we are. We don't know ever what we're going to talk about or if we have a stumper or anything like that. But that's what makes the show fun for us and for you.
There's been holidays recently. Everything's still crazy out in the world. There's more holidays coming up. I mean, things happen, okay?
Oh, you had too much turkey. It's still affecting you? What's going on?
He's still sleepy from the trick to whatever that was.
No. I got over that. I'm thinking more about what's coming up for me at the end of the month. So
Yes. All right. So with that, we are going to say good evening, good afternoon, and good morning wherever you're seeing this, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.